Hello and welcome to the All Round Coaching Podcast, episode 22. This is part 2 of the Alcohol and Me podcast that I have recorded last week. And now obviously I've brought Mel in just to give her insights and obviously just still discussing that topic as well. So Mel is now here. Hello Mel, welcome home.
Hi.
Hi. So Mel has obviously listened to the podcast to catch up, and her insight is a little bit different to mine. So I think it'd be interesting to have a little bit of input from you, your views, maybe experiences, and probably relating to what I've spoke about.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really hard to kind of follow a lot of what you've just talked about because obviously it's quite an open, honest and vulnerable story, which I'm incredibly proud of you for doing. In terms of my upbringing, my point of view, is probably going to be for the majority's sake, I guess, in the sense that, I mean, I've always kind of had a relationship with alcohol in the sense that I started drinking when I was 12, 13, and I think a lot of kids would have gone out on the streets. I don't think that many do these days. I might be wrong. But yeah, my mum and dad were probably more responsible in some ways and not in others, in the sense that I was obviously drinking in the house with them, which makes sense because I wasn't on the parks doing more stupid stuff. But yeah, like we were saying, that the alcohol's been in my system since I was 12, 13. Although it's WKDs and Smirnoff Ices, yeah, it's still not ideal. But obviously, I do think that we live in a society where drinking booze is the society. It's a social thing, isn't it?
It's a societal norm, and I think my view, I mean, it is different to yours, and it isn't to say a parent's good or bad if they let the kids drink. It's just that you're still developing at that age, and obviously, if we're thinking about calorie intake, you're already exceeding your calories as a child having a few bevs, especially WKDs. It's not to say it's good or bad. Like, I get that point where, yes, your kid's not out drinking on the street and getting into trouble, but from a health perspective, but I suppose it's hard teaching teenagers about health when all they want to do is probably get pissed with the friends. So I appreciate it from both sides.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I'm one of those where if you tell me not to do something, I'll go and do it anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think even worse now, like kids, I think I have seen it where kids still go out drinking. They've just leveled up and got nicer stuff than probably what you guys had. I think it was Lambrini back in the day.
Yeah, we grew up with Lambrini.
Yeah.
Lambrini, WKDs. I was drinking in Lee when I was 16, like out in the bars and clubs and stuff. So yeah, it was a norm. And to be honest, up until about maybe last year, the year before, it probably still was the norm. I mean, what's been really interesting, I don't know if it's because I've hit my 30s and obviously I started coaching with you, that I've had conversations with my close friends and we've all kind of said it's just not worth it. But I don't know if that's just because it's 20 years worth of drinking that's kind of got us to this point.
It will be, obviously, alcohol's going to have its impact over time anyway, but it is going to impede your health if you continuously drink. And it's not, obviously, you don't do it every weekend, but your body will always tell you, like, it'll send you signals, it'll catch up. It's just that all the signs aren't visible when you're young. Obviously, you're recovering quicker. You're not as tired, you've got a little bit more energy because you are younger. So as you get older, like, things will catch up.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to, I know we've briefly touched on it in the other podcasts. Obviously, when we first got together, I think there was 2 weekends in very close succession where we were both out drinking and probably drinking a little bit more than what we would have done normally. I mean, we went out for your birthday as well, didn't we? In terms of going out for a good few bevs.
Yeah, we went to the wash house, and you know what I did? I really enjoyed it, but I think for the couple of weeks that we didn't feel great.
No, and I think off the back of that, like we'd come away feeling a bit grim, not as sexy as what we probably would do.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it'd just be interesting to kind of maybe pull out some of those check-in photographs and see what we were looking like, because I do think it catches up with you. I do genuinely think that a couple of weekends or a month of like weddings and stuff like that can really creep up on you and catch you, where you don't realise that, why are my pants suddenly feeling a little bit tighter, and
I think even
do I feel a little bit shittier or tireder? Like, I think there were points where like I was probably a bit more of an emotional roller coaster, like just getting stressed out at probably the slightest things, whereas yes, I've been out this weekend and I've had a good time for it, but I'm tired this week. I'm probably not firing on all cylinders. I don't feel as up for it in terms of going to the gym and focusing on my lifestyle. So even off like the back of one, although it was a really good night out, off the back of one night out, like it has such a big impact into the rest of my week.
Yeah, and I think I haven't really drank since we last went out. I can't remember.
When was that now? When we went to Tattoo.
Yeah, I think that was the last time I drank, and I know I've been more productive in the past couple of weeks, and then even doing 42 elites, I do feel better. Like, yes, I still get tired, and mine's worse when I'm on my period, like my fatigue's absolutely walloped me, but it's probably the most productive couple of weeks, and I haven't drank. I know for me, obviously, it does affect my mood for a good week or so when I do drink, so I think it highlights, obviously, I've been absolutely fine, and you've not.
No, I think I've seen a change in you over the past few weeks where you've not been on it. Like, not that like it obviously doesn't massively affect you, or you can probably tell me otherwise. But yeah, I can almost see like you coming out the end of that tunnel. Like you said, I think you've told me a good few times. Like it does linger for a lot longer than what you'd imagine it to. I know you mentioned earlier on the podcast. I don't know how long it stays in your system for. Is it
8 days? And that was a lot of information. Obviously, I knew about alcohol anyway, but I got it from the Huberman podcast. He's quite an intelligent guy, but he does a lot on like sleep, daylight exposure, the effects of alcohol and stuff, which I find interesting. But people always think it's just that one session of drinking that bothers you, but it isn't. It's in your system then for 8 days. And obviously you've got your brain cells trying to repair each other, you're trying to catch up on quality sleep because that's affected, and obviously nutrition quality, so it all has that knock-on effect, and that's why it isn't just the day or two after that you're affected, it's generally the week for people.
I think you told me that information like when I first started coaching with you, and I mean literally this time last year, which is interesting, where I decided, right, okay, well, I don't think I've ever consciously gone, I'm not going to drink for X amount of time, but I think I'd given myself maybe a 2-month period where I gone, I'm just not going to have any booze, and that even just more to prove it to myself that I can be in social situations and not have to rely on the wine as a crutch. And I think for a lot of, in more ways than one really, I found it massively beneficial. And I think one of the hardest things, especially when you decide to do that, is you end up in a situation where people are going, why are you not drinking?
Yeah.
What's happening? Like, why are you not? Or like, I think I got at a point where, I mean, to be fair, I was trying to slowly kind of introduce it into some like events anyway. So there was points when I'd gone out for a couple of drinks with my mum and dad around Atherton. And I'd had enough. I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm done now. I don't want to drink anymore. I've had enough. And went to the bar. I think I got a 0% Heineken, which I know from a calorific perspective still is probably not ideal. However, it's almost that if they don't know that I'm drinking a 0% beer, then they won't judge me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't want that judgment, but then I think they'd gone to the bar, or I'd put the bottle down or whatever, and then I got questioned about it. But then for the most part is that I wasn't getting shushed to a point where I couldn't speak, because I've done that with alcohol, like where I'm just slurring my words, can't talk, or I've blacked out, or my relationship with booze has been ridiculous. But yeah, like I think, and then beyond that, I think I'd gone to like a 30th where I'd just taken 0% wine, 0% beer, and then I just got quizzed on it all night. And it was interesting because I do think that some people were interested, and for the fact that I turned up to an event and had non-alcoholic beer, it just meant that for me it was more of a convenience that I could drive home. I could still go and have fun, I could drive home. And yeah, it was just really interesting because people do naturally perceive that, and I was probably one of them at one point where they think, oh, you're having 0% beer, you must be boring, or something ridiculous in your life must have happened for you to you not need that beer. Yeah. Like it's mental. And I'd even had comments over the course of Christmas where I'd probably pared it back a little bit, because I didn't want to lose track of my journey and how well I was progressing. That I was called boring for not drinking as much, like because I've always been one of those characters where, probably similar to you really, where if I have a bit more in me, if I have a bev in me or a two, I get a little bit more confident, a little bit more chattier, probably lose my inhibitions a little bit, and yeah, then you become fun Mel, and then people want that person, but I just find it really sad that I have to have that alcohol head on me for people to enjoy my company. Like, it's just really frustrating because, I'm not a dullard. Like,
No.
I don't need the booze in my system. So yeah, it's been interesting. I think by having coached by you and obviously just kind of taking that conscious decision to go, you know what, I'm working really hard here. I'm spending X amount a month with you. Like, why would I then fucking pour it all down the toilet by throwing
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just a pointless exercise.
No, and I think it's good that not only did you explore that, but you appreciated maybe focusing a little bit on yourself and your health rather than just having a drink just to please others. And I think it's a big move to make. Like, you should be able to have fun without alcohol. It shouldn't always be alcohol infused. And I think for me, taking that step back and not just associating everything with drinking, like I did say on the podcast, we're looking at more things that aren't just drinking, like doing activities. We went out to Six by Nico, and obviously we had our Diet Coke and ginger beer. It was nice not to go out and get slaughtered having a meal.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you appreciate a nice meal as well if you get drunk. Or I wouldn't want to spend money on a meal and then drink myself stupid.
See, I'm a sucker for... I've done it on Christmas dues, which is obviously never a good idea, where I don't like drinking and eating at the same time. Like, I get full off one or the other.
Yeah.
So if I'm out and I'm out for a night out, I'm not eating. And that's where I've always fallen down, because I've obviously not eaten, and then I'm running on empty. And then throwing up at the end of the night because I'm not eating.
Yeah, I mean, it's advised that you don't drink on an empty stomach, because then the alcohol doesn't absorb into any food or anything. It's absorbing obviously into all your blood. So they do advise that you do actually have something to eat. I know a lot of people say eating's cheating because you'll get drunk quicker, and there's a reason for that. Is it healthy? Absolutely not. Is it safe? No, but people do it just for that high. And that's probably why people keep drinking, to chase that first feeling and how good they feel. It's like a euphoric feeling, the first one. And that's where it gets you. Obviously, you get hooked on it. So people always say hair of the dog. And that's when you get the shakes and that, or you'll feel better if you have a drink. That's just you then starting to feed an addiction. That's why it does feel better when you have had a drink.
Yeah, it's not... it's interesting. I think I'm more conscious of, well, from taking a step back from it. I'm more conscious of not kind of pouring as much into my body, even on Saturday, where, although we had a bottomless brunch and I think she picked us up, I was probably a little bit giddier than what I would have been. I think even midway through that, I still decided to have a Diet Coke, where the old Mel wouldn't have recognised that I may have been going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I may just need to take a minute and stop.
It is good that you pause, and I think I do that on if I go out as well. Like, I know when I've had enough. Like, if I get to a good level, I do just stop. And I've always said I like to keep my inhibitions about me and not get to a point where I'm not going to remember or know what I'm doing.
I think for the most part, like, having gone to a few events where I've not drank and just had 0% or just had Diet Coke or whatever, you quickly realise that after maybe about an hour in, most people aren't watching what you're doing. No. So they probably don't give a shit whether you're having Diet Coke or whether it's a rum and coke or whatever, unless they're on you like a hawk. But I think we're in a really good position at the moment. There's a lot of options behind the bar. Like, there's not many bars that you can go to nowadays where there's nothing from a 0% perspective. So yeah, it's certainly a lot easier to kind of live a little bit more. I'm not saying it's the healthiest option, but it's certainly a lot easier to go out and not have to have a drink.
No, and I think it's good that now you can navigate around that. And I'd always say if you're with a good crowd anyway, that always helps. I think it'd be harder in social situations if you didn't know anyone, but I think if you're in a good crowd and you've got good people around you, you're having a fun time anyway, because hopefully you actually like the people that you're with.
Yeah, I'm really lucky that, I mean, regardless, I was out with the girls at the weekend, and we could have gone for a walk somewhere and we still have had an absolute hoot. So it doesn't really matter. It just so happened that we went to a bottomless brunch. But yeah, I think my relationship with alcohol has changed massively from being coached by you, to be fair, just from a number of reasons. And obviously the most important one is my health, because although I'm at a place where I physically look, incredible now, like, I think it's more around like let's build for the next 30, 40 years, and me pumping copious amounts of alcohol into my body certainly isn't the way to keep myself fit and healthy for the next 30 years. So yeah, I think from my perspective, just to kind of cap off, I guess it's just, I think from myself and my perspective is that obviously I've had a bit of a love relationship with booze up until maybe the last year or so, and it's just been nice to kind of take a bit of a step back on it. And to be honest, I cherish my Sundays, I cherish my Saturdays, my weekends more than I ever have. Because obviously I get to spend time with you. And I certainly don't want to do that, lazing around on the couch and eating McDonald's and having that knock-on effect that a hangover does bring as well.
Yeah, because it has an effect of your whole week, and it probably undoes a lot of, is that a word?
Yeah.
Yeah, undoes a lot of progress for people, so people will get frustrated of not ever getting anywhere in the health and fitness journey, but it's probably the one thing they don't look at or they won't address.
You just look doughier as well after a couple of months of just drinking. Like if you've not drank and then you bring it back on, like I said, we probably should do a post, or I'm quite happy to put a post out personally of what I look like when I maybe would have been drinking a lot more.
Yeah,
versus...
we'll have a look at, because I take checking pictures every week, so I am going to have a look at what I looked like when I drank, because it is very noticeable on me when I drink. Like it isn't just water, it will be fat gain as well. As soon as I drink, it does just like show up, so I will get them pictures out. And this isn't a podcast to say that you can never drink, you can never have fun. It's not to eliminate it, but hopefully draw people's attention to maybe why some people don't drink, or that you can actually focus a little bit more on your health, and not everything has to be associated with alcohol. So if you are struggling with like any health goals, or you just want to chat and some advice, like my inbox is open and Mel's is open, because you'll probably get some decent advice for us, because obviously we've lived different lives, but we've come like full circle and probably similar in a lot of our views and values now.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of, as a couple anyways, it's finding someone that aligns with those goals. And I think you mentioned environment, and the company that you keep makes a massive difference. I don't think it'd work as well if I was drinking every weekend and I was going out partying. I just don't think it would work, because you'd get frustrated with me, and I'd get, that's why you need someone in your life that understands and supports, and probably is on the same journey as well. I think that certainly helps.
Yeah, I know I couldn't be with someone that drinks heavily. That'd be a decider for me. So I think when I was actually on dating apps, I didn't want someone that was a party head and that was always drinking, because it wasn't an environment I'd want to put myself back in anyway. So it is a blessing that you are pretty much, you're like the yin to my yang, pretty much similar to me anyway. So yeah, I love that.
There you go. That's a nice way of rounding things up.
It is. But thank you for listening. Hopefully someone has took something away from this, even if it's just one person. You can drop us a message if you need anything. If you think it's going to benefit someone else, you can like it, share it, obviously post it to your friends. But it'd be nice to at least help someone with this, and hopefully someone does resonate with it as well. So we will leave it there, and we'll be back next week. Obviously a podcast every Monday is our little routine now. But thank you for listening.